I've got to be honest, guys. Until what 2 days ago, um, this was looking to be quite a slow news week in the football world. We didn't have any Premier League games that were going on. It was the FA Cup that was going on, and yeah, had a couple of bits that was going to be done on that, and we're going to do a piece on Arsenal as well, but nothing major. And then well, the past 2 days have been quite crazy because it has certainly added a huge subject, but at the same time has completely rewritten what I was going to say in regards to Arsenal. So we'll start off with the FA Cup stuff, and then we'll gradually get juicier and juicier. So we're going to start off with the FA Cup. We had the FA Cup fourth round, the round of 32. Really interesting games that were going on, really interesting results that were going on. And when we first started talking about the FA Cup, we were talking about the bottom three teams. They are like the underdogs. They're the ones you want to look out for. They're the ones you want to root for, and that's normally how things go. Well, Macclesfield were that underdog, and sadly, they have finally ran out of steam in the fourth round. The final 32 teams, they finally ran out of steam. They lost 1-0 to Brentford, Premier League team, but what an incredible journey they've had along the way, beating Crystal Palace, the FA Cup holders, in the third round, and then also getting through to the fourth round through that. So, who are our new underdogs? Who are our new bottom three teams in the FA Cup, where it's sort of like they are the ones you want to root for? They are the glory teams, the teams that are shooting for glory, that they're punching above their weights. Because at the end of the day, we're in the final 16, and there are 20 teams that are in the Premier League, so there is a chance that all 16 could be from the Premier League. Well, that's not the case. In fact, the bottom three teams in the FA Cup, still in the FA Cup, are actually still outside the Premier League, outside the top 20. So there are still some underdog stories. So let's have a look at the fifth round that's going on, and then we will obviously discuss further. So let's jump on into it. This is the next rounds. I'm happy to say that Liverpool are there, which is really, really great to see. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of Premier League teams. So Fulham are there, Sunderland are there, Newcastle, Man City, Leeds, Arsenal, Liverpool and Wolves, Chelsea, West Ham, Brentford. It's still got a good chunk in there, but we've got some underdogs as well. We've got a bunch of teams from the Championship, not including Wolves, guys. Steady on. So we do have Port Vale and Bristol City. Their match was postponed, so they're going to be playing in a couple of weeks' time to see who gets the chance to go to Sunderland. So root for whoever ends up being the winner of that one. We've got Norwich City that are going to be going to Leeds United. Norwich, a former, Premier League team, so they know what they're talking about, they know what they're doing, and they're looking good right now. So Norwich City, another one to go for. Jumping down a few steps, we've got Wrexham versus Chelsea. Wrexham, the Hollywood club, the one with Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds in charge. They are going to be welcoming Chelsea. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in that one, certainly. But the big underdog, the huge underdog, is Mansfield Town. The 55th best team in the UK, or in England, sorry, is in the final 16, beating West Ham. No, Burnley, sorry, not West Ham. Burnley, same colours, different team. Beating West Ham. But Burnley, oh my God, beating Burnley. So they're the ones to certainly root for, and they have got a huge task in trying to beat Arsenal. Arsenal trying to do something special this season. So yeah, absolutely, Mansfield are the huge underdogs in that. It likely is going to be their final round, but what a run they have had. we're getting to the situation now where even if you're in the second tier of English football, you're going to struggle to get here. So for a team in the third tier to get here is impressive, really, really impressive. But like I say, they're playing against Arsenal. Arsenal have got their own dreams. They've got dreams of trophies this year, and it's really interesting. I'm going to be discussing both sides of things, but things have taken a tweak because Arsenal dropped points against the worst team in the Premier League. Wolverhampton Wanderers came from 2-0 down to get a point at Arsenal. And here's the thing, it has blown the title race wide open because on the face of it, you're like, that's the League One. I was looking at League One for a different reason. On the face of it, you're like, well how? Right? Arsenal still got a 5-point advantage, and yeah, I know Manchester City have played one less game, but even if they win that game, that still only brings them to 56, so it's still Arsenal's to lose, isn't it? Well, yes and no. Because whilst it's Arsenal's to lose, it's also Manchester City's to lose. And why? Because Manchester City are playing Arsenal. Could be a winner takes all in a few weeks' time, with 11 matches to go. And whilst we're here, just really focus on everything else going on. That we were focusing on the title last week, of how exciting things are getting. I think we're now getting into the realms of almost like it's like a chase basically that's going on. The teams. So when it comes to the top two, the team that's in form is the team in second. When it comes to the top four, the team in form is the teams in 6th and 7th. Probably can't really... and also the relegation battle as well. When it comes to the relegation battle of 16th, 17th and 18th, the team in 18th is the team in form. We are in a very exciting period when it comes to everything that's going on. So, with all that in mind, what about Arsenal? Now, here's the thing when it comes to Arsenal. There are two sides that we are seeing in the Arsenal fan base. One of them being, we're going to bottle it, as you can see here. And then the other side of things, there's some people saying that they can do the quadruple. Now, the quadruple, we'll get to that in a minute. If you're not clued up on football, we'll talk about the quadruple in a minute. But when it comes to the bottling situation, I'm not going to lie, it's kind of funny when it happens. But can we talk about bottling when it comes to Arsenal? Sadly, yes. Well, hilariously for me, but sadly, yes. You see, the thing is, Arsenal have been a little bit nervous the past few weeks. The past 7 Premier League games, they got 10 points. That might not sound too bad, but when you think about it being 3 points for a win, that means that they've got 10 points out of last 21. That's scary numbers. That's relegation style numbers. Maybe not that far, but it's bad. It's bad, right? Now, here's the thing. I don't think you can really judge Arsenal too hard for this. Why do I say that? Well, here's the thing. I remember a time being a Liverpool fan, waiting for years, decades, for Liverpool to win a title. 2007, 2008, or 2008, 2009. Rafa Benitez got nervous, bottled the title. 2013-14, got nervous, bottled the title. 2018-19, I don't think that was a battle too much. Manchester City were incredible, and so were Liverpool. It was kind of a titan battle, basically, Titanic battle. But for Arsenal, the reason why I'm mentioning this is bottling isn't it shouldn't be considered as a really bad thing. This is just down to the fact that Arsenal haven't been in this situation where they were in control for about 20-25 years. Now, is it going to be embarrassing if Arsenal don't win the title from here? Yes. And I think certainly if they didn't win the title, we'll be looking at those past 10 games of the time of that was where it was lost. But I'm going to say this as well. If Arsenal win every game except for the Manchester City game and lose out on the title through that, there's still a crumb of hope. It's bad. Don't get me wrong. It is still bad. But there's still a crumb of hope. But Arsenal do need to lock in and load, because as much as knockout competitions are great and Champions League apparently has more prestige, no, Premier League. If I was the Arsenal coach, I would be throwing everything for the Premier League. Send out the kids for the FA Cup, the League Cup final, the Champions League. Just while you focus on the Premier League just for a bit, because it matters. That's where that's where the prestige sometimes comes in. Champions League as well, but Premier League mostly, because they'll always find a way to hold it against you, right? But how about the other side? It seems weird talking about it when it comes to when we've had a situation where apparently they've bottled the Premier League, right? But there's also people talking about the quad. What is the quad? We were talking about the trophies, the League Cup, the FA Cup, Champions League, Premier League. Some people were talking about Arsenal winning all four. How easy/difficult is it? Well, it's that difficult that no one's done it yet. Certainly not in England, anyway. It's certainly happened in Spain. Barcelona once won 7 trophies. They won their league title. They won the special cups that were going on. They won their 2 National League trophies. They won the Champions League. They won them all so that they could win 7 in one season. It has been done, just not in England. And it's important to mention about England because England is an intense Premier League. This kind of shows it. If this was Barcelona playing against the bottom of the team, right? If Arsenal were playing against the bottom team in La Liga, you'd be talking a different kettle of fish altogether, because those teams are like the equivalent of second-tier teams. They are genuinely not that great, right? So you can relax it a little bit, right? But only one team has won what's known as the treble, when it was which was the FA Cup, Premier League, and the Champions League, which is Manchester United, much to my annoyance. There's only a couple of teams that have won any sort of treble, that being Manchester City, Liverpool, and Manchester United. And over the past few years, Liverpool are probably the only one that's come close to a quadruple. I'll talk about that in a minute. But this is where I was already going to be saying you need to do a bit of caution here, because this time last year, there was some delusional Liverpool fans saying that we were going to win the quadruple. Do you know what happened? Those same fans then ended up being miserable because we only won the Premier League. It's still a trophy. It's still a huge trophy. You have to focus on it one at a time. Like I say, the only time where you can really start thinking about the quadruple is if you're in the last 2 games of your season, last 3 games of your season. You've already won at least one trophy, and it is very much a case of just counting everything off, such as Liverpool in the 21-22 season, I believe it was, where they were 1 point behind Manchester City with 1 game to go. They had won the League Cup, they had won the FA Cup, and they were in a Champions League final. Basically 2 matches left, and that's when they could start thinking about the quadruple. And to, I'm not going to say just Arsenal fans, I'm going to say to any fans where their team is in the league. Let's say it's Manchester City next year, or Manchester United next year, or, as I hope, Liverpool next year. Focus on the trophies one at a time. You wouldn't want to be in a situation where you're miserable when you should be jubilant because you've won a trophy or 2. You know what I mean? But like I say, people are talking about Arsenal bottling it, so we don't even need to think about that, do we? Anyways. Right. From a debating subject to, well, a bit more of a grim subject. We had the Champions League playoffs. You might have heard us talking about it, where this is in between the league stage and the knockout stage, and we had some exciting matches. For example, we had the underdogs, which is Bodo Glimt, beating Inter Milan 3-1, which was ridiculous. Inter Milan are one of the giants of the European stage, and they lost 3-1. But we're not going to focus on the matches too much, but we are going to focus on what happened on Tuesday. So on Tuesday, we had Benfica playing against Real Madrid, a rematch of what happened literally a few weeks ago. Real Madrid won 1-0, but honestly, no one's really talking about the scoreline because of this. Benfica's Prestiani allegedly threw out a racial slur against Vinicius Jr. Now I'm going to say outright here, I'm not a fan of Vinicius Jr. Right? Bit over exuberant, bit cocky, bit arrogant. Like an exciting footballer. One of those players that when they play for you, you love them. When they play for the opposition, you kind of hate them, right? And Vinicius Jr. did what he does, scored an incredible goal, celebrated like a Brazilian, to be quite honest. Bit of samba dancing. It was some good moves, actually. Some people are accusing that it was goading the Benfica fans. Again, we'll get on to that in a minute. And for some strange reason, Prestiani, a 21-year-old for Benfica, decided to use his t-shirt to cover his mouth. And it's at that point Vinicius Jr. heard a racial slur. Reported it to the referee. That was all sorted. They did a 10-minute thing. There was a lot that happened. Now, to give the full picture for now, Benfica have claimed that basically Vinicius Jr. was too far away to hear anything. So how could he have heard a racial slur? Prestiani has said that he called Vinicius Jr. a brother rather than a primate. And Jose Mourinho, the manager of Benfica, basically said to Vinicius Jr. that he shouldn't have celebrated so enthusiastically. And how can Benfica be a racist club? They've got, how can there be racists, amongst Benfica? Eusebio, the legendary Portuguese winger from the 60s, played for Benfica, was a legend for Benfica, and he's black. Now, I'm going to address things as kindly as I possibly can. I'm actually going to use my experience of Liverpool itself as an example. So, first question, can misunderstandings happen? Absolutely, right? Misunderstandings can happen all the time. Good example of this was in 2020, I believe it was, Liverpool versus Everton. Bobby Firmino and Mason Holgate, so Mason Holgate, the defender for Everton, they got into a little bit of a, they're both battling for the ball, and Mason Holgate did a shoulder barge, and Firmino ended up in the advertising hold. It's completely accidental, but it's a local rivalry, so it was a bit aggressive, right? And Firmino shouted at Mason Holgate, and Mason Holgate thought he heard a racial slur. Now, it was cleared up because there were Portuguese lip readers for Firmino, who's Brazilian, who basically saw that he yelled at Mason Holgate, who's English, SOAB. Basically giving him offensive comments about his mum, basically, right? But unfortunately, that comment, that phrase, sounded like something else in English. So misunderstandings do happen. Is this a misunderstanding? No. That covering over the mouth, especially with the t-shirt, why? Why do you need to do that? Like, players goad each other all the time, shout at each other all the time. If you're covering your mouth, you know that you're going to be saying something dodgy. For example, have you been in the office and you want to say something spicy? So what do? You cover your mouth when you're speaking to your colleague so that your manager doesn't see what you're saying. Prestiani didn't want people to see what he was saying. So that's definitely not a misunderstanding. How about distance and being too far away? No, absolutely not. Cannot say enough that is incorrect. So that rubbishes out Benfica, rubbishes out Prestiani. Now, how about Jose Mourinho's comments that it was, in a sense, Vinicius Jr.'s fault and that Benfica can't be racist because they have a legendary black player? So let's start off with the first one. It's banter. What Vinicius Jr. did in celebrating to the Benfica fans was banter. Benfica was giving him stick. Vinicius Jr. gave it back, right? And by the way, I've been in stadiums where that's happened, right? Playing, so watched a Swansea City Birmingham City game. Dembele for Birmingham City scored, ran over to the fans, gave it some, right? Fans gave it back aggressively. There's nothing wrong with that. There would have been nothing wrong with the Benfica players and the Benfica fans just giving him stick for what he did. But racist comments? Absolutely not. Racist gestures? Absolutely not. And anyone that got involved in that, whether it be the fans that were seen on the videos or whether it be Prestiani, absolutely needs to feel the consequences of their actions. Like, it's embarrassing that it's not obvious to certain people. Now, how about the second thing? Benfica can't be racist because we have a legend that is black. Liverpool have a legend that is black in John Barnes. Didn't stop Luis Suarez being racist. Didn't stop the Liverpool fan literally at the start of the season be racist to Antoine Semenyo. I will agree with the sentiment, by the way, that clubs aren't racist. There's a couple where they are outright racist, that they'll only accept certain players, they will only accept certain fans into their stadiums. But on the whole, a lot of the 90% of the clubs are anti-racist. But we're not talking about the clubs here, we're talking about individuals. And individuals absolutely can be. Only takes one individual. Like, even in terms of Benfica, although there is something dodgy that's going on with Benfica, but you could probably chalk it down to a handful of Benfica supporters, Prestiani, and whoever is a social media admin for Benfica that is being dodgy and racist in their comments and their thoughts and everything like that. That doesn't account for all Benfica fans. And in fact, I'm pretty sure there's probably some older Benfica fans who are absolutely horrified at what their fans have done, what their player has done, and what their club has done. Because there will be correct, I'm not going to say politically correct, just correct fans in all clubs. In every club, nationality, race, gender, there are wrong-uns, but it doesn't apply to all of them. We're not talking about all Benfica supporters here. We're not talking about all Benfica players here, past and present. And here's the other thing: we're not even talking about all Argentinian players, because I do want to address this as well. This is for me is important. I've been looking at a lot of YouTube videos of it, and the amount of comments that I've seen from people going, "Oh yeah, of course Prestiani's racist. He's Argentinian. Of course he's racist." And then social media comments, you end up then with the amoebas coming out of the woodwork to then decide to do nationalistic comments against Argentina. Most of them providing messages of a UK base because they are referencing the Falklands War, which is despicable to be commenting about. Now, is it an Argentina problem? Is there a genuine thing down it? Well, the previous situation did involve an Argentinian, which was Enzo Fernandez at Chelsea. But who did Enzo Fernandez play for before Chelsea? Play for Benfica. So could that just be a Benfica problem, not an Argentina problem? Like, correlation doesn't equal causation. Just because the last two footballers that provided out racist comments were Argentinian doesn't mean that Argentinians are racist. And it'd be bizarre and ridiculous, but at the same time, sadly predictable, if we end up in a situation where Lionel Messi or Alexis McAllister has to make some sort of comment going, "This is not an Argentina thing." This is not an Argentina problem. This is not a young person's problem. in terms of the fans, apart from the wrong uns, this is not necessarily a Benfica problem. This is certainly not a Vinicius Jr. problem. This is certainly not a Real Madrid problem. It is down to individuals to be showing their accountability. Jose Mourinho needs to show accountability for his comments. People in the media that made inappropriate comments need to show accountability for their comments. And Mark Clattenburg has. Whether it's enough is another matter. Prestiani needs to show accountability. Absolutely. And I don't think he should be labelled a pariah if he does show accountability either. I want to mention this as well. He's young. We've all been in a situation where we got caught up in the mob. Maybe Prestiani was hearing what was going on across the audience and just was incited him. He needs an education piece. But this is coming back right now. And it shouldn't be. As you can see from this title, 8 years that Vinicius Jr. has played at Real Madrid and has had 20 cases of racist abuse, allegedly. Now, it might be the case that 15 of them are unproven. But as football fans, this should at least get us to stand up, take notice and go, do we need to do a clean-up? And I don't mean just UEFA, FIFA, the Portuguese League, Benfica, the Spanish League, Real Madrid. I'm talking about individuals. I'm talking about the situation of looking at yourself and going, is there a prejudice I have against a certain nationality, against a certain race, against a certain gender or sexuality? Because if there is one there, even if it is buried amongst multiple different things, as has been shown on Tuesday, it will come out. It will come out hard. And like I say, this is not a piece on whether you like Vinicius Jr. or not. This is not a piece on whether you like Real Madrid or not. This is not a piece on whether you like Prestiani or not. This is not a piece on whether you like Mourinho or not. This is not a piece on whether you like Benfica or not. This is a piece on where do you stand on this issue. What was your first reaction? Was it to make excuses? Or was it to tackle it head on? And like I say, I don't like Vinicius Jr. I really don't like the way he acts. But I absolutely abhor the way that he is treated just for being himself. That's the thing that matters. Insults and banter, if it's give and take, is kind of fine, but when you start touching over into those sensitive subjects, that's when it's a problem. But anyway, those are my thoughts. It's certainly a sensitive subject. It's certainly a difficult subject, but those are my thoughts. I hope I gave over my thoughts in the best way possible. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts as well, and put them in the comments down below. Once again, though, if I start seeing comments about Argentina, about Brazil, and they starting to show that same vibes that has been given by Prestiani and by the fans, I will remove them. But again, love to know your thoughts at the very least. All that's left to say, guys, is on a big news week and a challenging week. Take care.